There is a fundamental idea in our society that knowledge is free. You can ban an action, you can ban a physical object like a weapon or a drug, but you cannot ban a thought. You cannot make mathematics illegal, or at least that is what we thought until the late 1990s. It was around that time that the world discovered that, for multi-billion-dollar corporations, there are, indeed, forbidden numbers. There are strings of characters that, if typed, published, or even printed on a t-shirt, can land you in court or in jail. This is the story of how the Hollywood industry tried to make math a crime. How a 15-year-old Norwegian teenager humiliated the world's highest-paid engineers. And how a simple line of code started the modern war over who truly owns the devices you buy. You or the company that made them. Before we get into the code that made lawyers in $1,000 suits sweat cold. If you enjoy understanding the invisible battles that shape the technology you use today, verify your subscription to the channel. We explore the underworld of code. The year was 1999. The DVD format had just been launched and was the hottest technology on the planet. The quality was crystal clear. There was no need to rewind, and most importantly for movie studios, it was a digital format. And digital means copyable. Hollywood was terrified. They looked at what was happening with music. Napster was about to explode and had nightmares about people copying perfect movies and distributing them for free. To prevent this, they created a digital fortress. They founded a consortium and developed an encryption technology called CSS Content Scramble System. The idea was simple. The data on the DVD disc was scrambled. To watch the movie, you needed a secret key to unscramble the data. This key was only given to licensed DVD player manufacturers like Sony, Panasonic, and Toshiba. If you wanted to manufacture a player, you had to pay royalties to Hollywood and agree to their rules. It was a perfect walled garden. No one entered without paying. But there was a problem. There was a group of users who were left out of the party. Linux users. Because Linux is an open-source, free operating system. No company paid the CSS license fee to create a DVD player for Linux. So, if you were a developer or a tech enthusiast using Linux, you could buy the DVD legally at the store, but you couldn't watch it on your computer. You owned the physical disc, but the industry refused to give you the key to see the content. This annoyed a lot of people, but it specifically annoyed a Norwegian kid named John Lech Johansson, who the internet would come to know as DVD John. John didn't want to pirate movies. He didn't want to sell DVDs on the black market. He just wanted to watch The Matrix on his Linux computer. So, he and two anonymous friends started reverse engineering the code of a DVD software player called Sheng. And what they discovered was shocking. Hollywood's impenetrable fortress, the 40-bit CSS encryption, was a joke. It had been implemented so weakly, so amateurishly, that the decryption key could be recovered in seconds. John wrote a small program called DCSS. The code was tiny. It fit in a few lines. And what it did was simple. It used the key he extracted to unlock the DVD, allowing the video file to be read, copied, and played anywhere. John published the code on the internet, and all hell broke loose. The MPAA, Motion Picture Association of America, the organization representing Disney, Paramount, Warner Brothers, and all the giants, didn't see this as an act of interoperability. They saw it as theft. They contacted the FBI. They contacted the Norwegian police. John's house was raided. His computer was confiscated. He was criminally charged in Norway. In the United States, the MPAA began suing any website that hosted the DCSS code. They sued the magazine 2600, the Hacker Quarterly, just for posting a link to the code. Their legal argument was based on a new and controversial law called the DMCA Digital Millennium Copyright Act. This law stated that it wasn't just illegal to violate copyright. It was illegal to create or distribute any tool that allowed bypassing a technological protection measure. In other words, the tool itself was illegal, regardless of the use. This was where the technical battle turned into a philosophical and constitutional battle. The hacker community and free speech advocates fought back with a brilliant argument code: e-speech. Computer code is just a language. It is a way of expressing a mathematical idea. If the government can ban code, it can ban a math book. It can ban a cake recipe. To prove the point, the internet did what the internet does best. It made censorship impossible through mass mockery. People started printing the DECSS source code on t-shirts. If the code was illegal, was the t-shirt a contraband weapon? People tattooed the code on their arms. Musicians turned the code into song lyrics and recorded songs. Poets wrote haikus that, if compiled, decrypted DVDs. A student even discovered a giant prime number that, when translated into binary, corresponded exactly to the executable code of D. This became known as the first illegal prime. The strategy was clear. If the MPAA wanted to ban the code, they would have to ban t-shirts, songs, poems, and mathematics itself. They would have to sue reality. The battle lasted 4 years. John Johansson was tried twice in Norway and was acquitted both times. The court ruled that since John legally owned the DVDs, he had the right to access the content on them. He wasn't distributing pirated movies. He was distributing a tool to access his own property. It was a humiliating victory for Hollywood. But in the United States, the story was different. American courts upheld the validity of the DMCA. The distribution of DCSS remained technically illegal under copyright law, creating a dangerous precedent that haunts us to this day. You might think this is an old story about DVDs, a medium nobody uses anymore. But you would be wrong. The DCSS war established the rules for everything you own today. This fight was the birth of modern DRM, digital rights management. It is the reason you can't simply copy a file from Netflix. It is the reason Apple can stop you from installing apps that are UNT on the App Store jailbreak. It is the reason John Deere tractors have software that prevents farmers from fixing their own engines. The logic of corporations evolved. They learned from the CSS mistake. Today's encryption, like AACs used in Blu-rays or Widevine used in streaming, is much stronger. But the legal concept remains the same. You don't own the product. You are merely licensing the right to use it under the manufacturer's strict conditions. If you try to open the digital lock to see how it works, or to fix it, or to use it in a way they didn't approve, you are a criminal. There was a second famous moment. In 2007, when the HD DVD encryption key, a hexadecimal string starting with 09F9, was leaked, the SaichiDig.com tried to censor users who posted the number. The revolt was so massive that users flooded the site's main page with the number. Within hours, the forbidden code was the most popular news on the internet. It was a show of force. You cannot hide a mathematical secret in the information age. Once a number is known, it cannot be unknown. The story of the forbidden code teaches us that technology is a battlefield between control and freedom. On one side, companies want to turn devices into sealed black boxes that generate passive income. On the other, hackers and engineers fight for the right to understand, modify, and control the machines they own. DECSS was the first major battle of this war. John Johansson, DVD John, now lives quietly, working as a software engineer in the US. But his legacy is in every discussion about the right to repair, in every video about game emulators, and in every debate about net neutrality. The final lesson is simple. Math has no owner. Truth has no copyright. And no matter how much they try to legislate against human curiosity, there will always be a 15-year-old kid somewhere in the world, ready to take apart the next digital fortress just to see what's inside. And it is exactly because of these people that technology advances. Not because of the permissions we receive, but because of the permissions we take. If you want to have the right gear to explore, learn, and maybe break some digital barriers ethically, of course. Having a computer that doesn't freeze when you open a compiler is essential. I left a list in the description with hardware recommendations for those who take technology seriously. Keyboards, monitors, processors, tools for those who build, not just for those who consume. Code may be banned in courtrooms, but it will never be banned in minds. Stay curious. Stay free.